Hey, this is me, Myron Golden. Ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens of potential, hear me clearly. You were not born to be average. You were not created to struggle your way through life like a leaf being blown by the winds of circumstance. You were designed, destined, and divinely equipped to dominate your environment, to create change, and to leave a legacy that echoes in eternity. But here's the truth. Potential is worthless without pressure. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Steel is hardened by fire. And champions? Champions are forged by force, not comfort. Potential is one of the most over-celebrated qualities in our culture. From the moment we're young, people point to it like it's the ultimate validation. You've got so much potential. You could be great someday. And while that may feel good to hear, the truth is potential by itself is completely useless. It's a seed with no soil, a blueprint with no builder, a vision with no movement. It doesn't matter how much potential you have if you never put it under pressure. Pressure is the divine process that activates what's dormant inside of you. You can sit around dreaming about greatness for years, but unless you step into uncomfortable, high-demand situations, you'll never unlock the strength, creativity, or clarity that your potential holds. It's only when you're tested, when you're stretched, when you're challenged to your limits, that your potential gets converted into real capacity. Think of a lump of coal. It's full of potential. But unless that coal is placed under intense pressure and heat, it never becomes a diamond. And yet most people spend their lives avoiding pressure. They want ease, they want comfort, they want peace without process. But greatness is forged, not found. And forging requires fire. You don't know how much power you actually have until life requires you to use it. That's why the people who achieve the most in life aren't always the smartest, the strongest, or the most connected. They're the ones who are willing to submit to pressure. They're the ones who embrace difficult situations as training grounds for transformation. While others run from challenge, they run toward it. Pressure is the environment where discipline is born. You don't develop self-control when things are easy. You develop it when everything inside of you wants to quit, and you force yourself to keep going. That moment of resistance, when your comfort is on one side and your calling is on the other, that's where potential begins to evolve into power. So many people pray for strength, not realizing that strength comes through strain. You don't get stronger by talking about your muscles. You get stronger by pushing against something heavy. Pressure is not a punishment. It's a prerequisite. The weight is not there to crush you. It's there to condition you. Pressure also reveals what you believe about yourself. When you're under stress, when deadlines are closing in, when resources are tight, when the stakes are high, that's when the real version of you shows up. You discover if you truly believe you're capable, or if you've just been reciting affirmations with no conviction. Pressure strips away the noise and exposes the truth. Most people try to pray the pressure away instead of leaning into it. They ask God to remove the challenge instead of asking Him to give them the strength to rise through it. But growth doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from alignment, aligning your action with your assignment, even when that action is uncomfortable. Pressure teaches you how to focus. When everything is on the line, you stop entertaining distractions. You start to value your time, your energy, your associations. You begin to cut away what doesn't serve your purpose because pressure demands clarity. It forces you to identify what matters most. In the pressure zone, your skills are refined. Your decision-making sharpens. You no longer have the luxury of indecision. You learn to trust your instincts. You learn to move with purpose. You develop an internal rhythm that no one can give you. It only comes from experience, from pushing through resistance over and over again. Pressure forces your potential to come out of hiding. Everyone can dream in theory, but when you're required to deliver in real time, something shifts. That hidden genius, that buried resilience, that quiet creativity, it all comes to the surface under the weight of demand. You begin to operate on a level you didn't know existed. You'll never know how far you can go until the circumstances demand your full effort. Pressure introduces you to your future self. It doesn't just test your capacity, it expands it. What felt impossible yesterday becomes your new normal because pressure has increased your tolerance and stretched your belief. Under pressure, excuses lose their power. When there's no room for delay, you stop explaining and start executing. You don't have time to justify your procrastination, you just act. And in that action, you develop momentum. And momentum is the compound interest of pressure. One push leads to another, and soon you're doing what used to intimidate you without hesitation. Pressure has a way of revealing what you truly value. Do you value your vision enough to suffer for it? Do you value growth enough to endure discomfort? Do you value legacy enough to let go of convenience? These are the questions that pressure asks, and how you answer them determines the level you rise to. Every breakthrough you admire was born through pressure. Every invention, every innovation, every movement that changed the world was birthed in an atmosphere where someone was willing to be stretched beyond what was comfortable. Nothing extraordinary has ever been produced without the presence of pressure. People often say they're waiting for the right time, but the right time never comes without tension. There's never going to be a moment when everything feels perfect. That's why pressure is a gift. It creates urgency. It pulls greatness out of you now, not someday, not when you feel ready, but in the middle of resistance. If you want your life to count, you must be willing to step into the fire. You must be willing to sacrifice the illusion of ease for the reality of excellence. Comfort feels good for a moment, but pressure produces results that last generations. Every time you choose pressure over passivity, you invest in your own transformation. There's no shortcut, there's no bypass, there's no version of success doesn't require struggle. Potential without pressure is like a treasure chest locked away in the basement. It has value, but it will never impact anyone until it's brought to the surface, cracked open, and used. Feelings are the most deceptive compass you can follow in your pursuit of success. They fluctuate with the weather, with your mood, with how much sleep you got the night before. One moment you feel motivated, and the next you feel overwhelmed. If you live by your feelings, you'll live a life of inconsistency, starting everything and finishing nothing. Feelings whisper comfort, but comfort never built empires. Discipline, on the other hand, is the foundation of every significant accomplishment. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't ask for your opinion. It doesn't wait for inspiration. Discipline shows up. It executes. It repeats. It stays when motivation disappears. And in that staying, it builds something real, something feelings could never sustain on their own. There's a reason feelings are seductive. They make you believe that avoiding hard things is protecting you, but it's not protection, it's paralysis. Feelings say you deserve to rest when discipline knows you haven't earned it yet. Feelings say you're too tired when discipline reminds you that your energy is a resource, not a reason to stop. If you let feelings make your decisions, you'll train your mind to associate pressure with pain and delay with relief. But discipline flips that script. It trains your brain to see discomfort as opportunity. Discipline says, this is hard, but it's making me stronger. Discipline reprograms your internal dialogue so that adversity doesn't break you, it builds you. Most people confuse self-care with self-sabotage. They skip the workout because they don't feel up to it. They avoid the meeting because they don't feel confident. but they never realize those repeated emotional decisions become habits, and that habit is the silent killer of progress. Discipline is the only antidote to emotional inconsistency. Discipline doesn't require permission from your emotions. It doesn't consult your anxiety or negotiate with your doubts. It simply says, let's go, whether you're ready or not, whether you're in the mood or not. Because discipline understands that excellence is not a mood. It's a commitment made daily, often in silence, with no applause. Feelings want to keep you safe. Discipline wants to make you capable. Feelings want you to avoid failure. Discipline wants you to face it until you win. Feelings say, slow down, take it easy. Discipline says, you can rest when the mission is complete. And the more you choose discipline, the less influence your feelings will have over your future. You cannot trust your feelings in the face of purpose. Purpose demands movement when feelings want to pause. Purpose demands sacrifice when feelings demand comfort. If you want to become who you were created to be, you must stop asking your feelings for permission and start giving your discipline the steering wheel. Every goal you've abandoned had one thing in common, a moment where you felt like quitting and you obeyed that feeling. The real battle isn't in the circumstances, it's in that decision. Will I choose what I feel, or will I choose what I committed to? One of those options leads to regret. The other leads to reward. Discipline doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it produces fruit that lasts. It builds credibility with yourself. Every time you choose discipline, you reinforce the truth. I can count on me. And that internal trust becomes the bedrock of confidence, because confidence doesn't come from hype, it comes from consistency. Feelings may offer you short-term relief, but discipline gives you long-term results. You may feel better temporarily when you skip the hard thing, but you'll always be stuck in the same cycle. Discipline breaks the loop. It creates momentum. And momentum is built on doing the right thing repeatedly, not just when you feel like it. The most successful people aren't immune to emotions. They feel fear, doubt, laziness, and distraction just like everyone else. The difference is they've trained their discipline to be stronger than their feelings. They've practiced choosing what aligns with their purpose over what aligns with their present mood. Discipline is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. At first, it may feel like you're forcing yourself. You are. But eventually, the discipline becomes automatic. It becomes a part of your identity. And when that happens, feelings lose their control over you because you're no longer ruled by temporary states. You're governed by eternal standards. People often wait for motivation to act. But waiting for motivation is like waiting for a spark in a storm. It's unreliable. Discipline doesn't wait. It creates momentum through motion. Once you start moving, your feelings begin to catch up. And over time, discipline changes your emotional chemistry. What used to feel hard becomes your new normal. Your emotions will always present excuses wrapped in logic. It's not the right time. You're too tired. You've already done enough today. But if you listen closely, you'll realize those excuses are fear in disguise. Discipline, however, sees through the noise. It doesn't need to feel ready to begin. It just begins. Feelings make promises they don't keep. They say you'll feel better tomorrow, but tomorrow looks exactly like today. Discipline doesn't make empty promises. It delivers results. It builds day by day, layer by layer, choice by choice. It may be invisible at first, but eventually the evidence becomes undeniable. If you rely on feelings to guide your life, you'll always live in reaction. Discipline allows you to live in creation. Instead of reacting to mood swings and emotional dips, you build a life based on principles, on truth, on vision. Discipline puts you in the driver's seat, no longer a passenger of emotional unpredictability. The longer you practice discipline, the more you realize it's not about restriction, it's about liberation. You're not depriving yourself, you're freeing yourself from the bondage of inconsistency, distraction, and stagnation. Discipline gives you your time back. It gives you your focus, your power, your future. Feelings take. Discipline gives. And that difference changes everything. Intention is where dreams begin. It's the seed of every vision, the place where ideas are born. Everyone has intentions. Everyone has thoughts about changing their life, starting a business, getting fit, writing a book, healing a relationship, or stepping into their purpose. But intentions, no matter how pure or powerful, mean nothing without movement. They are thoughts with no structure, plans with no push, blueprints with no building. The real problem is not that people lack goals. It's that they never develop the force required to bring those goals into reality. Force is the missing piece between what you want and what you actually get. It's the internal power that transforms a wish into work, a hope into hustle, a plan into performance. Without force, all you're doing is fantasizing. Force is not about aggression. It's about decision. It's about applying pressure to your life in the direction of your purpose. Intention alone is passive. It waits, it imagines, it dreams, but force steps in and says, enough planning, now we move. It disrupts your patterns of hesitation and demands action where you've been avoiding responsibility. Many people confuse waiting for the right time with being wise, but often that waiting is just fear in disguise. Intention feels safe. It's clean. It's exciting. You can talk about it, write it down, share it with friends, but execution is messy. It's inconvenient. It costs you time, energy, and comfort. That's why force is necessary, because without it, you'll choose intention over execution every time. Force doesn't ask for permission from your emotions. It doesn't need the circumstances to be perfect. Force moves in spite of delay. It challenges resistance. It pushes through fatigue, confusion, and fear. It is the active commitment to act regardless of how you feel. It says, I'm doing this, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. There will always be a gap between what you know you should do and what you actually do. That gap is filled by force. It's the engine that drives your body into alignment with your goals. It's the voice that says, get up when you'd rather stay in bed. It's the hand that opens the laptop, makes the call, hits the gym, writes the page. It's the only bridge that gets you from talking to doing. The longer you stay stuck in intention, the harder execution becomes. The more you think without moving, the more fear grows. The more you analyze without acting, the more paralyzed you become. That's why force is not optional, it's vital. Without it, you'll build a habit of hesitation that will rob you of every breakthrough you're meant to experience. Force creates movement, and movement creates clarity. Too many people wait to feel certain before they act. But certainty doesn't come first. Action comes first. Clarity shows up in the process.